One of the things that turned me on to, and we'll start continuing with the story of
Sure.
your company. The thing that was like, holy crap, when I saw it was, and I don't quote me because I don't 100% remember. Did you say that your company walked away from a $50,000 or $500,000 earnest money
Yeah.
one time?
Yeah.
That was
500
like
grand.
how much?
500.
That was like the holy, what the F? Like, because a lot of
So
people would have kept going forward. So,
yeah. So we were under contract. So what happened was about 2.5 years ago, prior to that, our acquisition criteria, I'm going to take another step back. When we first bought deals, and this was like the tail end of when I came in. So this was like late 2015, early 2016. John and Don started the company. We bought 3 deals in the Carolinas with 10 and 12-year debt. And that was like the plan. We love the Carolinas, whatever, but cap rates just came down crazy. So what we said was we're going to go a little bit more opportunistic, and we're going to buy basically any good deal in a decent market that has really good risk adjusted returns, in our opinion, for that area. Anywhere on the East Coast except, take east side of the country, excuse me. So split the country in half, except for like the far north, Texas, and the Northeast. So kind of like a circle of like, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Tennessee, up, into the Midwest of like Indiana and Kansas and stuff like that. And then come across like Pennsylvania and down. And we did, we bought deals in Mobile. We bought deals in Jackson, Mississippi. We did a ground up in Clarksville, Tennessee. Where else did we do? We did we started doing deals in Florida. So we had deals in the Carolinas, and just what started happening was we just started getting too spread out. And as we started having these conversations of like, hey, I don't think we can continue to do this. Like, we don't have enough scale yet to be in these many areas. We went under contract for these 2 properties down in Montgomery, Alabama. What we thought were very good deals at the time just continued to get worse and worse and worse as we went through due diligence, and then as our money went hard and through closing. And one of the reasons we decided to do it was Don and a couple close of his friends had a good chunk of change in 1031 money they were going to put into those deals. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, right as that happened, we were saying, hey, like, we had bought our second deal in Jacksonville, Florida. We had bought our first deal in Columbus, Ohio. And we said, we're going to focus on those 2 areas and surrounding markets. So we only focus on 5 cities in the Midwest. Some people don't consider it the Midwest, and North and Central Florida. And what happened was we had 4 at the time. We only bought 3 deals come up in Florida that we loved, that we just fell in love with. 3 of them were managed by our property manager already. One was another one we were going under contract on. And these deals in Alabama just kept getting worse and worse. And we just kind of looked at ourselves and said, why are we even buying these? And we basically just did a cost analysis and said, is it better to give up the $500,000 and buy these? Or is it better to close on these and try to raise extra? Maybe we can't do all 4. Maybe we can only do 2, like the 2 smaller ones or whatever. Because it was a lot of money. I mean, it was.
Yeah,
it's
a lot of effing money.
Yeah, those 4 deals were like 60 million or more. So it was like 20 million in equity at the time. It ended up only being like 15 because we dropped out of one. And I think the 1031 money was like 40% of that. And we just, they ultimately decided, not me. I don't want to say we. It's not like it was my money at the time, or ever. But they said, yeah, we're just going to walk. These deals aren't where we want to be going forward. We want to be in these 2 areas. We don't want to be in Montgomery. The deals aren't what we thought they were going to be. And, we're just going to strategically decide to lose that and go buy these, and, we'll recover over the next 5 years.
What is it like to be, I mean, I lost a bunch of money last year for the first time in real estate, and, whatever. It's nothing 500,000, but 25 grand, something like that. But what is it like to be in those conversations, to have the discipline to see the bigger picture? Because I really don't think there's a lot of people that would walk away from 500 grand. I mean,
so it's a little tough for me because I'm not a partner at Toro. Yeah. So I didn't lose $500,000, but I did lose out on, income because I get paid both a small base salary and commission for when we buy deals and when we sell deals, assuming when we sell, we make money, and the company makes money. So, I didn't really get hurt besides, not closing on all 6 deals. We only closed on 3 of the 6 because we walked on those 2 and walked on the one in Florida. But watching it, I mean, yeah, it's tough. I mean, you're talking about losing a significant chunk of change on the idea that, hey, this is just the right call. Like, this is the right thing to do. No, it's definitely hard. I can speak a little bit better to after we bought that 82 unit deal in Jacksonville, Florida, which was not a Toro deal, it was a general partnership deal. We were actually going to buy another 86 unit in Jacksonville as well, that I was going to be a part of the general partnership of, that we walked on right before due diligence. We didn't lose our deposit, but people don't realize just because you don't lose your deposit doesn't mean you don't lose money. We lost about, between the 4 of us or 5 of us, I think, again, like 35 grand or something like that, between legal, accounting, travel, lender, et cetera. And that, it's not easy to walk away from a deal. And it's even tougher now because that deal crushed it after we walked, because we know the person who bought it, our manager's managing it for him, and they were thinking about selling it prior to this, but we got hold of the financials when they were thinking about selling it. And I mean, they're cash flowing like a motherfucker. Like, it's crazy. So, I can talk more to that, but yeah, I mean, for 5, I mean, it's the same conversation. It's just, what resources do you have? So if you don't have, several $1 million, $500,000 sounds like a lot. But it's not easy. It's really just, what do you value more? Do you value closing the deal and not losing money and maybe not making the best decision? Or do you take a step back and say, yeah, this is going to hurt today, but we can survive it, and this is the right decision, not only for our own money, but for other people's money as well that we're raising. So, I mean, that was an interesting period to be a part of. It definitely hurt our ability to do as much business as we could in the short term, because obviously ton of lost revenue. But we're still here, we're still kicking. So it is what it is.
1,000%. And one of my things is I venture into the multifamily space for myself and hang out with a lot of multifamily guys. I just like hanging out with the bigger mindset and the bigger vision. One of the things I can't stand in the multifamily space is that, they might own a percentage of a percentage of a percentage of a deal, and then they walk around and tell everybody they got 4,000 units and they're not making shit. And so, and then you have people like Tyler Chester, who owns a 50 unit by himself. Like, that's way better than probably your 1,000 units that you own a percent. So like, I get sick of people like putting numbers on things, and like, I think goals are like kind of for somebody else, like intentional, likewise, like when you walk into a deal, like, like it matters like how much money you're actually making, right? Not just to purchase the unit, right? To say you bought an 82 unit, right? And as a company, I would imagine the discipline on the numbers, there's a lot of egos flying around. There's a lot of emotions, but ultimately it just comes down to what the deal looks like, right? When you're buying any unit, a single family, a multifamily, or any commercial space. Yeah.
I think you made 2 really good points, and I'll extrapolate more on the decision-making for that 86 unit, because I think it'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, with, online presence and stuff, people can easily boast. It's, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? So for me, I do like to put out what the company has purchased and done on both a dollars and a unit count, because it's my experience. I don't talk about 10 unit properties much because I have very little experience in that. I can take some from what I know and put it in. I don't talk about flips. I don't talk about wholesaling. Like, I stay in my lane, and that's, hey, here's what happens on 60, 80, 100, 300 unit properties, and you can take that information and do with it what you can. And a lot of it is transferable to other things. Smaller multifamily more, mobile home parks more, self-storage not as much. But the syndication side of it, you could do that for anything. You can do it, raising money from people. You can do it for multifamily, any sort of real estate. You can do it for a business. You can do it for an idea. You can take all that stuff and apply it to other things. So it's very easy to hyperinflate what you've actually done And it's also very hard to portray the full story to people, because you're looking at, when you're on social media or you're on the internet and you're looking at somebody, unless you spend hours listening to them talk, unless you really take the time to dig in, you're getting a snapshot of their life and how they portray it. And you're going to make your own assumptions based on what they put on paper or in a video. And you're ultimately going to be wrong. Like, nobody knows me as much as I do, online stuff and things like that. And same thing for you. So, ultimately you just got to take what people put out there with a grain of salt and just extrapolate what you think is important from it and take on board what you think is important, and don't get too hyped up by what people are saying they're doing and actually doing and things like that. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of people that have been on paper doing really, really well, and they're going to get caught up in something they weren't supposed to be doing. So, we heard about, somebody that thought they were going to have to sell 2 deals because they had a margin call for stocks. I don't know if it was legal or illegal, but still not a good situation to be in.
Happened to my friend.
Yeah. So,
he had to liquidate like half of his assets.
Yeah, those things happen, right? You over leverage, shit hits the fan, and that's what happens. But you also were asking about, the mindset of like buying a deal and, as things come up, every deal, basically when you're looking at a deal, you're trying to do everything in your power to find a reason not to buy it. At least that's how we look at it. Mm-hmm. It's, I get a deal, why shouldn't I buy this? And if I can't find any good reason not to buy it, I'm probably going to buy it. We kind of work in the inverse, not why should I, it's why shouldn't I? Too many people, I think, focus on why should I, and they tend to, push here and push there. And once you push in several different areas, well, now the whole thing's a little bit higher than what maybe it actually should be or you would feel comfortable doing. So we try to beat it down more so than anything else. Sorry. But yeah, when we were under contract on that 86 unit property, it was a really interesting opportunity. It was a guy that had bought it out of receivership. He had gotten it occupied. It was 100% vacant, spent a ton of money, got it occupied, and tenants had moved in for about like 9 to 12 months. So it was like coming up on that renewal period for the first tenants. And we had a big problem getting information on the actual leases from the current owner. So we couldn't verify a lot of people's credit. We couldn't verify a lot of people's income. And we just didn't feel comfortable with what was going on. So the conversation we started having was, okay, here's the deal with what the information we were being told. And every deal has a certain amount of risk and a certain amount of return. The return hasn't really changed, but now the risk has gotten higher, because if we go in and we find out every single tenant has a credit score of 200 and, instead of a 3x multiple on their rent to income ratio, it's a 2.5 or a 2, that's just extra risk involved with the deal. Do we think it's worth it? So we started running scenarios of what would happen if occupancy dropped and things like that. And it was, we went right up until, the 24th hour before our money went hard of what we were going to do. And ultimately we just said, this isn't worth it, because we were still newer at the time. This was within the first year that I'd moved to Toro. We didn't do, millions and millions of dollars worth of deals. And we said, this is something that's staring us in the face that could easily burn us. And we're taking an extra risk without, additional upside. So we just said, nah, screw it. We're out. We think this is probably still a good deal. So if I had the money, I would have still bought it myself, because I was pretty confident that even if in the short term there was a problem, we would have done fine in the long term. But it's a different beast altogether when you have money from other investors and other people involved in the deal. So we decided to walk. Like I said, I think we lost like 20, 30, 40 grand or something like that for costs. I forget. And yeah, somebody else bought it. Our manager in Jacksonville manages it, and they've crushed it. And that's a deal we could have made a ton of money on and didn't. We lost money. So
one of the guys I follow that I really enjoy, his name is Aaron Wagner. He's a big commercial developer in Utah, private equity fund, the whole thing. he said that he went out and he interviewed all the rich families in America, like the Rockefellers, all of them. And one of the greatest things I heard was the only family in the fourth generation that was still making money was the Rockefellers.
Mm.
And he asked the grandson, what did your granddad tell you that, that y'all keep making money? And he says to sell early and keep momentum. Like, and I thought that was the greatest thing, because I think momentum and just like making the right choices and not getting yourself in this like massive hole and over leveraged. Everybody wants to get to where they're going so fast. And it's like, if you just build on small wins, right? And like, then I think momentum is a secret weapon, and unlikability. I think to do a deal with somebody and it's a good deal and you feel good. Like, I just want to do business with people that I enjoy hanging out with. And my mentors are doing massive stuff and they're crazy, but they're so fun to hang out with. And I think people don't talk about that enough. And when you take a 35 grand loss, yeah, it could really dial you down, but also there's probably a part of you that feels great, that you feel like you've made a decision and it's not about the money, right? Like when you make that decision, it's a business decision and you're extrapolating emotion out of it. And when you can get to that point, I would imagine that it was the launching pad to how y'all have gained so many units in such a short period of time.